that he used occasionally to hold forth a sop to Cerberus in the shape of publicity for the sake of keeping her in his employ. For Miss Charlotte Cray, who was as old as himself and had arrived at the period of life where women are said to pray, "Any, good Lord, any," was really a clever woman and could turn her hand to most things required of her, or upon which she had set her mind. And she had most decidedly set her mind upon marrying Mr. Braggett, and he, to serve his own purposes, had permitted her to cherish the idea, and this was the nemesis that was weighing him down in the study at the present moment. He had complimented Miss Cray, and given her presents, and taken her out a-pleasuring, all because she was useful to him, and did odd jobs that no one else would undertake, and for less than anyone else would have accepted. And he had known the while that she was in love with him, and that she believed he was in love with her. He had not thought much of it at the time. He had not then made up his mind to marry Emily Primrose, and considered that what pleased Miss Cray, and harmed no one else, was fair play for all sides. But he had come to see things differently now. He had been married 3 months, and the first 2 weeks had been very bitter ones to him. Miss Cray had written him torrents of reproaches during that unhappy period, besides calling day after day at his office to deliver them in person. This, and her threats, had frightened him out of his life. He had lived in hourly terror lest the clerks should overhear what passed at their interviews, or that his wife should be made acquainted with them. He had implored Miss Cray, both by word of mouth and letter, to cease her persecution of him. But all the reply he received was that he was a base and perjured man, and that she should continue to call at his office, and write to him through the penny post, until he had introduced her to his wife, for therein lay the height and depth of his offending. He had been afraid to bring Emily and Miss Cray together, and the latter resented the omission as an insult. It was bad enough to find that Sigismund Braggett, whose hair she wore next to her heart, and whose photograph stood as in a shrine upon her bedroom mantelpiece, had married another woman, without giving her even the chance of a refusal. But it was worse still to come to the conclusion that he did not intend her to have a glimpse into the Garden of Eden he had created for himself. Miss Cray was a lady of vivid imagination and strong aspirations. All was not lost in her ideas, although Mr. Braggett had proved false to the hopes that he had raised. Wives did not live forever, and the chances and changes of this life were so numerous that stranger things had happened than that Mr. Braggett might think fit to make better use of the second opportunity afforded him than he had done of the first. But if she were not to continue even his friend, it was too hard. But the perjured publisher had continued resolute, notwithstanding all Miss Cray's persecution, and now he had neither seen nor heard from her for a month, and, manlike, he was beginning to wonder what had become of her, and whether she had found anybody to console her for his untruth. Mr. Braggett did not wish to comfort Miss Cray himself, but he did not quite like the notion of her being comforted. After all, so he soliloquized, he had been very cruel to her, for the poor thing was devoted to him. How her eyes used to sparkle and her cheek to flush when she entered his office, and how eagerly she would undertake any work for him, however disagreeable to perform. He knew